a lot of Jews were reaching out to Jewish institutions or to Jewish leaders, especially to synagogues, with a question that perhaps was not fully articulated, but the questions were not answered. I'm looking for spirit. What is spirit? And I show up at the synagogue and that's not answered. Good morning, everybody. And we are back today with Credo of a Modern Kabbalist. And here's the book cover. Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi and Rabbi Daniel Siegel. Very wise, insightful. And let's take it away. This is a chapter. We're on page 16, and the chapter title is Seeking the Questions. Seeking the questions. How important are the questions? Seek me and you will find me, says Jeremiah, chapter 29:13. And I think that this gets to the heart of the whole process of seeking. How do you seek? How do we seek? What is it that draws us? What are the questions that animate us, that are like beacons in the dark that call to us, that we want to move toward, right? Those are questions that come from the intellect, but come from the heart, come from the gut. There's a certain questioning, a certain question mark that is like the Amud Ha'anan, the Amud Ha'esh, that the pillar of fire and pillar of cloud that we followed in the desert when we traveled for 40 years. So let's sink in for a moment into that whole kind of meta thinking about what is it that guides us and what pulls us. Not so much what are the answers that guide us, what kind of clarity do we gain or find, but more, let's ask the question of what is it that's pulling us? What are the questions? And Rabbi Zalman here goes into really deep, the beginning, and the rest of the book really follows that, is a theology, a framework based on wisdom accumulated over, traditional wisdom, Jewish wisdom that's accumulated over generations and generations, of how to navigate the questioning and how to find it within us. Let's jump in. Therefore, we do need to give real answers today which will help restore the inner resources of the seekers in a way which also allows them to remain connected to their Judaism. And just to recap a little bit of the chapters that we read up to now, Rabbi Zalman is acknowledging the crisis of the past 50 years or so, where a lot of Jews were reaching out to Jewish institutions or to Jewish leaders, especially to synagogues, with a question that perhaps was not fully articulated, but the questions were not answered. I'm looking for spirit. What is spirit? And I show up at the synagogue and that's not answered. I'm looking for integrity, for a life of vision, of goodness. And we show up at the synagogue and it's all pragmatics. It's hard to find vision, or if the vision is communicated, it's communicated in a biblical way that that probably was very vital for, in biblical times. But for us, we need a different language. And this is what Rabbi Zalman and Rabbi Daniel have been acknowledging in the previous chapters. So he says, look, if a seeker comes to you, or if you are the seeker, you want a real answer. And you want your question, your real question, to be recognized. And that's what needs to happen here. And let's move forward with this a little bit. This in turn means that we have to encourage the asking of real questions. So often I sit with a student and I'll present something, maybe a verse from Torah or an idea, or we're talking about a holiday, and I'll ask a question about it, and I can hear the student try to give me an answer that would make me and or God happy. And that's covering up the real question underneath, which could be something like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Or the way I'm experiencing life is so different that, I want to love my religion, I want to love my identity, but something here is discordant, is not matching. And the smart conversation is to encourage that real question, to have that real conversation. If the questions are not real, then even the very best answers won't sell. Our questions must have what William James, the philosopher, called cash value, quote unquote, so that the answers will be relevant and truly responsive. We have to be willing to hear. Quote, if I hold close to these ideas, what will they do for me? And if I hold close to other ideas, what will they do for me? End quote. And what do we hear in that kind of questioning? So I want to tell you what I hear. What will it do for me doesn't mean how I will benefit, but how will I experience the answer? Or rather, will I experience the answer? Will it strike like a chord? Will it be resonant when I ask the question? Let me throw out a big one. What is God? So, will the answer, kind of like, the pitchfork will resonate when we strike the right string on the guitar. So that creates a resonance, and then the pitchfork also resonates. That means there's a intunement, at one-ment, right? So will the answer I get give me a lot of concepts, a lot of kind of theories, and sort of like intricate thought patterns to try to consider? Or will it resonate deeply, as if there was a string from the top of my head to the very bottom of my spine, and I will hear that as wom, 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 like my pitchfork is responding to the vibration of the answer, and I know it is true. That's what Rabbi Zalman is talking about. What will it do for me? How will it touch me? How many times have you been touched by an answer from Jewish text or from a Jewish leader? We are, what Rabbi Zalman here is acknowledging that for the past so many generations, and let's face it, this is post-Holocaust stuff, there's a vacuum, there's a hole in the midst of our community. Because there were those who provided resonant answers. Unfortunately, we're still grieving unconsciously, if not consciously, the loss of a lot of souls who were present and functioning as our spiritual guides. So we're reclaiming that, and the book will continue and delve into a new framework, a credo for a modern Kabbalist, a credo for a modern seeker and theologian. And let's continue. Ultimately, our questions must emerge not from mental categories, but from deep within the heart. They must rise to the surface of our beings as we sit in silence, so that they are not just the old questions which we raise whenever we have nothing else to talk about, or just for the sake of argument. My father was great at that, by the way. May his memory be a blessing. I love my father, but he liked to argue in a way that went nowhere. And that is not where we find the real question. They need to be the questions which make a difference in our lives, and I want to add in our spiritual lives. In learning to frame these questions, we can get some help from tradition. The teachers of our lineage managed to express in short statements a gestalt, a deep structure which can become visible to us. And in essence, since we're at the beginning of the book, this is what the whole book is about. It's a real treat. I hope you stay with me for the remainder of the book. It may take a while, but we'll be at it every week. So, as you're listening, just curious, what kind of questions are yours regarding to your wholesomeness as a Jewish person? Regarding to your resonance with the spirituality and the imaginary and the beauty and the fullness of the Jewish experience within the experience of all life. What are you seeking? What are you troubled about? Or what are you looking for, not troubled about, but appreciate and want some more coherence, some more context, some more integrity about? Curious to hear that. Leave a comment below. Before we conclude this lesson, I want to just begin dip our toe in the new emerging theology that this book is going to present, and read one more subchapter. And the title is Three Interactive Triads. Three interactive triads. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai observed that God, Torah, and Israel are so bound up together as to be inseparable. So you see, we also have a Holy Trinity. Whoops. So obviously for our brothers and sisters, who are Christian, there's a different Holy Trinity. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who lived, actually I must say he's post-Jesus, but he taught that God, Torah, and the peoplehood, Israel, make a oneness. And that's from the Zohar, Vayikra Parashat Acharei. Three other elements that are similarly bound together are these concepts: creation, revelation, and redemption. That's a second triad, by the way. That's modern, and it's comes from the book *The Star of Redemption* by Franz Rosenzweig, a 20th century German Jewish philosopher. As we continue reading this book, we're going to learn a lot about his life. He's very influential in shaping this new theology. So we said that the second triad was creation, revelation, and redemption. And the third triad consists of prayer, deeds of kindness, and Torah study. Let's say it again: prayer, deeds of kindness, acts of kindness, and the study of Torah. And this is, by the way, is from Pirkei Avot, from the Ethics of the Fathers. The rabbis teach us that on three pillars, the world is established on three pillars: al avodah, al Torah, al avodah, al gmilut chasadim, on Torah, on prayer, and on deeds of kindness. This is what Rabbi Zalman here is referring to. And completing these value complexes is a 10th value, which is unique to Judaism, to Jewish tradition. So notice that in some ways this set of three triangles can also be very universally applied. Torah got Israel, so other people have Israel, other people have their people, and other people have, other people have their own, whatever their sacred book is, or their, their main teaching, Dharma for the Buddhist, and, the New Testament for the Christians, and the, Quran for the Muslims, and the Bhagavad Gita for the, for the Hindus. Everybody, a lot of people have a book. We're not unique in that. A lot of people have an identity of other people. A lot of people have some sense of divinity or spiritual, supreme being. So in some ways we share those 9 points, 9 value points, or three triads with, you could say that's pretty universal. We share that with the rest of humanity, all spiritual seekers from all cultures and traditions. But there's a 10th unique value that is only Jewish, and that is our collective covenant with God. Our collective covenant with God. By the end of this discourse, we may discover that each of these triads is really a unity, and that taken all together, they are the same unity. So we're going to conclude this lesson here. I hope this is whetting your appetite. Certainly, it's whetting my appetite. This is my, second or third time through this book. It's a really wonderful work of honoring the process of questioning and the open field for questioning through this framework that allows us to question within our tradition, from a modern, postmodern. Rosenzweig is 20th century. We're questioning it. We're questioning in the information age. We're questioning in the modern theoretical physics, where the resonant of the vibration between a string, a guitar string or a violin string and a pitchfork is no longer only metaphorical. Quantum physics and string theory talk exactly about that. There's, we now talk about the basic elements, the subparticle, atomic particles, as not as particles anymore, but as vibrations, as energy. So, through the science of our time and the sensibilities of our time, how to ask these questions as we navigate the three Jewish value triads, and eventually how to make sense about a covenant with God. Let's leave that as an open question for now. Thank you so much for joining this lesson today. Wishing you an amazing day, a day of questioning and being nurtured from the contemplation of the question. Let's not rush to the answer. Questioning is a little bit like foreplay. What's the rush? I'm Rabbi Reuben Modik with Hebrew Learning Circles and Makom Halev Community here in Nyack, New York. Again, thank you for being with us through this lesson. We'd love to read your comments below. Let's interact, keep the conversation going. Come back next week for more. And please do subscribe if you were inspired, and if you like this, we would love to have you as as a subscriber to this channel. Red button below, like, and for now, wishing you an amazing day. Shalom.